Hi everyone, Joellen here, and welcome to Washed in Watercolor. One of my students, Deb, along with her son Bryan, recently opened Golden Grain Artisanal Bread located in Princeton, Massachusetts. Words cannot describe just how amazing their bread is. I mean, it is beyond yummy, so good. Please look them up. So, their bread is the subject of today's demonstration. Yay! I begin with a basic drawing, and I try to keep in mind the splitted shape of the crusts. Once I'm satisfied with my drawing, I clean up my edges. I thought it would be interesting to begin with an underpainting. Using burnt sienna, I lightly paint the shapes and the values. This is a technique that I typically use in oil painting. Since there are 4 loaves, yep, no odd numbers here, the application will be a little redundant, but it's okay because it's really good practice. I do my best to make good observations about values, dark lines, and hard and soft edges. My goal is to create a monochromatic first layer. When I look closely at the outer crust of the bread covered in flour, I see almost a light purple. My plan is to avoid masking fluid this time and instead paint around the light areas. I use a very watered down Winsor violet. I sense a yellowish color in the center of the bread. Using some Winsor yellow carefully, not too bright, I paint all 4 loaves. It is mixing with a little bit of purple, and that's okay. Okay, you all know that Windsor orange, red shade, is one of my favorite colors. So let's just pick up a little bit of that and I'll add this to the centers as well. I just need to darken some areas so I can have a better sense of the whole form. So using some sepia, I just pick up and start painting some of the darker lines. When I'm painting, I'm always thinking about hard edge, soft edge. So when I paint a line, I'll paint it, but then I'll use a damp brush just to soften it on one side. So I'm always considering if there's a hard edge or if there's a soft edge. And I work pretty quickly. So coming through, and I can put in a big line and then go and quickly pick up some water and soften it. But you may find you work at a slower pace and maybe you don't put in such a long line as you see me do. Okay, so whose idea was it to paint 4 loaves of bread? I think we should have just stuck with 1 loaf, and that would have been pretty good. So it's just going to take a while to get through all of this, and I suggest that you start with the back loaf first. And it's really easy sometimes to get carried away and get your values kind of mixed up where you're spreading the dark paint too far. So try to just do the best you can if you're painting along with me to leave some areas that are white. Be careful if you're softening everything with a lot of water and it just over softens. As I'm painting along, I'm like, oh, maybe this is just going to get a little overworked. I hope not, but that can happen. I'm still painting with my sepia, but I'm adding little touches of burnt sienna. I want to get some of the rich, darker areas on this loaf of bread. So I'm using a little bit of Windsor red and perylene green. And it looks a little bit much now, but I think it will work really, really well once the painting's done. So just a funny story. As a kid, I loved painting, and I loved painting still lives. I'm not sure why, but I guess because objects were always really handy, and I would always take my parents' pots and pans, and I would bring them up to my bedroom, and I would arrange dish towels and all kinds of things, and I would just paint in watercolor, trying to capture them all, and later on, when I became more of a portrait artist, I always credited painting so many still lives, and all from life, of course. It was all observational painting. And now, when I find I probably work a little bit more from photographic references, that lesson from working from life really helped me out and helped me to understand form and movement and value that a photograph can sometimes wash out. As the bread was baking, it like split and it really formed like these very subtle lines. And it's important to see if you can see these little suggestions of lines because they'll really help to show the form, the roundness, the fullness, the movement of each loaf. Touches of red and orange really give this so much life. Here are the subtle lines I was talking about. So this is good enough for now, and it's time for me to add in a background. So I mix some Windsor Violet with some sepia, and I want to mix up quite a bit, and I want the paint to be a little thick and not too diluted. Using my big brush, I'll wet the background with some clean water, and then I will start to paint in the entire background, working really wet into wet. Put in some perylene green and drop it into my wet background. I really love the contrast between the dark background and the loaves of bread. Once the background is completely dry, I re-wet the background again and mix up some more paint. I just love this dark, rich background. Backgrounds can be really challenging to paint. It's so easy to get it where it's splotchy or you get a blossom, and it does require a lot of practice. Sometimes I'll just paint the background first before painting the subject matter, but this time I did it the other way around. Using that same mixture with a touch of neutral tint, I add shadows or cast shadows to the left side of the loaves of bread. I'm still keeping these pretty soft, but I feel like I want to ground them a little bit. And then, very carefully, I soften or pull the color up a little bit into the left-hand side of the loaves. Again, this will give the bread a nice rounded form. Again, I'll just come through and strengthen some of the darks. I hope you're enjoying either watching or painting along with me. Please remember to like my video and subscribe to my channel. Okay, so it is time for the finale, and I decided to get the floury white powder on each loaf to use my white gouache, or you could use Chinese white watercolor. So white gouache is a titanium product, and it you can thin it out a little bit. So I have it on the side of my palette, and I've thinned it out with a little bit of water, and it's just enough. It's even though it is somewhat opaque, the painting that's underneath will, and the colors will all show through. So I thought white gouache, but again, they make Chinese white very similar, and that's in watercolor. And I thought that that would be perfect for getting that floury texture on the loaves of bread. Finally, the moment is here and I am done. Yay. So let's just take the tape off and see what we have. Again, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.